Live.
I got the notification.
That's excellent. So let's see, have a sip of tea while we wait. Live. Live.
SES.
There we are, and muted. So, oh, that's right. I got to put us on the real us goes right so that I can just have chat on the left.
That's how I have it too. Yeah.
All right, and welcome to the March live chatty nitty tea session with Katie and myself. I'm Sarah, also known as Imagine Landscapes.
And I'm Katie, also known as Roar 114.
Welcome to March and our little chat. We're waiting for you guys to come in on the live, but we will proceed with gusto. So we wanted to open with something about Ukraine because this is a more personal conflict for us. About 96 years ago, our families began the process of fleeing Ukraine. We were part of a small group of German, well, sort of German, sort of Flemish, sort of Dutch religion called the Mennonites. We were farmers there and had set up sort of settlements of communities, and we were pacifists. And in the chaos following the Russian Revolution, pacifists with food and money were clear targets. And so in the early 20s, many of our family members began the process of leaving the Ukraine, and we eventually settled in Canada. And this makes this conflict feel particularly like we've been doing, and our family's been doing a lot of family history lately as well. So it really feels like we've been looking at maps, and there's a lot of familiarity and layover or overlap. And what I wanted to say was two things. One is that I really encourage everyone to donate, but to also think about setting up the donation as a monthly amount. Organizations that you trust that do an amazing job of responding to crises do best when they have a stable foundation of money from which to like launch all of this and do their planning. So yes, definitely do top-ups whenever there's a crisis, but do something like support Doctors Without Borders or another organization that you respect and give them a monthly sum. That is a far better thing for their planning and their feeling of security in terms of how they know they can progress or start to get better at what they're doing. And the second thing I'd just like to say is that the Canadian government is currently matching donations up to a maximum of, I don't know, was it 10 million or something like this? So in addition to the government's money, they are also going to match our money. So if you find a registered or like off the list, your money will double. So.
Yeah. And while this one feels personal for us, we are also aware that there are other conflicts in the world too, and just encourage us all to think about, this one feels a little more personal, right? Like we've got some family history in Ukraine, but that doesn't mean that we aren't also, aware of some of the other conflicts that are happening in the world. And I like the fact that you suggested Doctors Without Borders because they work in so many different countries. And supporting organizations like that can be a really great idea. And just as somebody who's worked in nonprofits before, when you're donating, if you can, give it to a general fund, and that allows them the flexibility to direct the money where they know that it needs to go. It's a little bit more freeing for the nonprofit to have that decision making on their own. So if you can, that's a really great thing to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, one of the other reasons I donate year-round to certain organizations is because they do adapt and they work worldwide. And that's very, very important to me. We have some of our money locally, we have some of our money internationally, some of our money on a national level, and we're very strategic with how we try to like address multiple layers and multiple issues and multiple geographies. And not just be, somebody knocks on the door and says, I'm raising money for cancer. But to think about what I'm passionate about and what we care about changing the world.
Yeah.
So
this is unusual. Normally we have people here by now.
I can see 14 people watching. They're
Okay,
just
good.
chatting.
I can't, I don't get to see, I don't know how to see on here who's all
You have
watching.
to slide it over. Underneath the video, there'll be like 14 watching, started streaming 4 minutes ago. That's what it says on mine.
Oh, okay. I just have it too small for that.
Yeah. A moment of tea and greeting to everyone that is watching.
What are you drinking after you've had a sip?
So I've done that thing where I took Red Rose, which is a cheap basic orange pico, and I put coffee syrup flavoring in. So we have found, have we not talked about this? Okay, so
I think we have
syrup in your tea. You can do it in herbal teas, like it's really good in chocolatey chai, and it's really good in these other things. But I right now we found the best hazelnut that I've ever had. And we always get ours at Winners. So it's always like, I may never see this brand again in the history of the earth. This company may not even exist. The flavor may not exist. But hazelnut tea is what I'm drinking right now. How about you?
I am drinking maple syrup oolong tea. It's from David's Tea. It's one of my favorite caffeinated ones.
Definitely caffeinated time today.
Yes, very much so. Hello to folks who are saying hi in the chat. Thank you for letting us know you're here. I've got a couple people telling us where they're from, so thank you for that as well.
Oh, and we should start with something. I'm actually wearing something knitted, but it's not recent. And it's just been a little cold. And this is the Inspira Cowl. I knit it probably, well, let's find out. I knitted a long time ago, but I pulled this up. So I finished it in 2012, January 2012. This is a 10-year-old FO, and I knit it in Marks and Catton's Big Trend. I was in Florida and we were going to be driving home and we stopped at a yard store somewhere, and it doesn't say on here. And I picked this, I saw a shop sample and I loved it. I loved it's like a gray gradient and then an autumnal gradient. And I thought this would be great to knit in the car, which tells you how new I was in color work, because I mean, yes, I absolutely had the miles fly by, but I saw almost nothing of our drive, which is okay, because, you know, like as you drive north from Florida, it very quickly becomes like, here's the brown part, here's the other brown part. We're moving now to gray parts. Now it's white parts. Like it's not the most necessarily fascinating thing, but I remember like they'd be like, oh, check that out. And you'd be like,
what? We have somebody saying that it's 72 degrees in Columbus, Ohio.
It's quite warm here.
It is. I was just pulling it up. Where I am, it currently feels like -6 Celsius. Or sorry, it is -6 Celsius, feels like -13, which is practically spring for us.
Like, it was cozy. I didn't have my gloves on the whole time I was out this morning.
Ooh, I'm looking forward to, like, I've downgraded from my parka to my wool coat.
Yeah.
And it just feels really nice to be able to do that. It's a little bit more stylish. I've got this very long black parka and my wool coat is black and red and white and gray.
I just got a wool coat. I don't even think I've shown you.
I saw a picture. I think you sent a video on a Marco Polo about it. Yeah. So
I need to, but none of the stuff I have works with it. And I want this to be my statement, like I'm going out feeling fab thing. And I don't want, like, I want to get boots that go with this. I want to get like hat and it's one of those ones that has a big V cut out. So I need like a something. So I don't know what color to do with it, because when I bought it, I was like, look at that gray, that's great. And then I realized there's a lot of brown and pink in the plaid. And I think I have to go brown, because any gray
I don't like brown.
I know, but okay, look at me now. Look at my glasses. I've been struggling with a lot of colors because I had purple glasses.
Yes.
The last 5 years, there was a bunch of colors that just didn't work for me. I was like, this is in my wardrobe. Why is this in my wardrobe? This doesn't work for me. Like, what nonsense is this? And I recently, well, a year now, I have these like tortoiseshell kind of glasses, and all of a sudden, like I had to change lipsticks.
Oh, yes.
And so yeah, it's weird. I hardly wear my silver earrings anymore.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. I guess
So
I went
anyway,
from purple glasses to these glasses. So
you
I
stayed in the
made,
same color family.
yeah,
Right?
well, it's interesting though, because when I had the purple glasses, I didn't wear as much purple. And I wore a lot more, like red was kind of the color of the year for quite a number of years. And now that I've got these, honestly, I'm just, for the first little while, I felt like I couldn't wear a lot of turquoise or teal because then it was just too matchy matchy. And some days I'm still aware of that, but honestly, I just love color. I love color and I just want to wear it. It's really what it comes down to. We have somebody from Trinidad here today.
Excellent. And
That's
someone saying
exciting.
Eve of Spring, Spring Eve.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I'm not knitting. This is freaking me out. I've got to open one of these and figure out what I can work on.
I actually just had to surreptitiously measure the sock that I'm working on.
How are we doing here? Oh, good. I can keep knitting this a little bit longer.
So why don't I talk about what I'm working on?
Please do.
So this is the Celestial Temple color from Fireweed Fiber Company. And it came with this beautiful highlighter pink contrast. So I've got the heel in there. This is the toe. I quite like, it's blowing out a little bit, but I quite like this colorway. It's just got so many different hits of color. Kind of everything is in there in a really lovely way. And it is part of a 3-month Star Trek themed stuff. So this Celestial Temple from Deep Space Nine. I'm also working on yarn socks in the same club called the Empress, but I left that at work. So I cannot show you this month what they look like. And I just unwrapped the final one because it was a 3-month club. And it's...
What, do you have it?
Nope, I tucked it away. Because with a foster cat, I'm also fostering a cat. She may come and say hello. I don't know how she is with yarn yet. I've just had her for a week today. And so I've been really careful about making sure that everything is closed in a bag at the end of the day. And when I opened this yarn, I sent you a couple of pictures and then it went into the new yarn storage in my bedroom. And so no, I don't have it with me.
So you know how we used to have Nori, who was our dog, who could open the fridge and open the cheese drawer and get out the cheese and the meat. And then we put like a toddler lock on it and she broke the toddler lock and still could get in. And then we put chairs in front of it and she pushed chairs away and get it through. So it turns out that our cats have figured, one cat has figured out how to open cupboard doors, and she will open it up and get into the garbage, and she will open it up and then they get into the yarn cupboard bits I have downstairs in the living room. And then I will sometimes wake up in the morning and come down and there'll be like a skein of yarn underneath the dining room table or...
Oh no. Mine are in frosted.
I haven't wrecked it yet. As long as it's not a mouse or mouse shaped, aka a gnome, they haven't wrecked anything yet. Although if it's rolling, they have made a mess, like classic kitten kind of thing. But
yeah.
Mostly they just seem to carry it around, get bored, and go to bed.
Yeah, mine are in, I bought Yisk's version of the Kallax. So, 4 cubes across, 4 cubes down, just a big thing of cubes. And I bought these frosted plastic cubes that zipper shut that fit perfectly in there. And so I've been starting to store my yarn in those.
Yeah.
So if the cat can figure out how to deal with a zipper, I don't know.
Yeah. So I have them in a cupboard in like boxes or whatever that don't have lids because it's in a cupboard, right? So I've got that's where I tend to have skeins of things that I need to wind up because it's kind of like next. So.
Rachel's asked if you can still get the yarn. I'm not sure. I joined the club towards the end of January and she was already running low. I think Fireweed Fiber Company dyed all 3 months of the yarn kind of at once. And so I'm not sure if she's got any left. Sorry.
You could always write like dyers.
But message.
Yeah, definitely like message them. Generally speaking, if it's I'd like to give you money, they don't necessarily feel that's harassment, right? Like in general, unless it seems like people overwhelmingly, like I know that say Lullabean yarn, she gets so much hassle from people like you sold out and I'm mad, that she doesn't want you to like basically don't talk to her. If you couldn't get the yarn, she's really sad, but she can't handle your stress. But
Yeah.
Unless there are very few, most dyers will be like at least flattered that you wanted their yarn, right?
Well, and I bet you Lola Bean is flattered. It's just, I think she's had so much negative, so many people being negative about it as opposed to understanding. And so I think that's where that's coming from. But yeah, so I agree. I think just, sorry, it's Barb. Sorry, Barb, you were a little bit, your name was half off the screen. I called you Rach. So Barb, I would say get in touch on Instagram.
Yeah. And we will be having a list of things we mentioned. We will not have links, but you will at least be able to have a sense of what we talked about.
Yes, they will be uploaded sometime.
Shortly after, hopefully, we are done here. All right, so usually we do FOs first, and I remember you saying you don't have any FOs? Because no. I also have not finished much this month. Oh my goodness. It's a short month, and it's been a hard month, and there have been times where I haven't even been knitting. Like, that's gross. That's a bad sign.
Or you could reframe your thinking on that. It's just a different sign.
Whenever it's bad for you. Not knitting, it's a sign that I'm sick or depressed. Like, okay. There's never, or I'm literally not sitting down. And that could be the good thing, but it's not like I am sitting and not knitting is what I'm talking about. And that's never, okay, that's not reframable. That's
okay. Because I know like there are times where I sit and I don't knit, and sometimes it might be depressed or sick, but sometimes it's also just, just kind of not in the mood or whatever. Yeah. But with a new cat for the last week, and then a couple other things going on, I just haven't been knitting quite as much. Yeah. So
I do have 2 small works in progress. One took me a long time. This is the February contribution to the Year of Gnomes. This is the Neville. So in this pattern, there's a worsted weight and a fingering weight. They are identical, except obviously for like the size. I think the beard also, the numbers are different because you cast on a different number. But basically, the gnome is identical worsted and fingering, but they got different names. So the smaller one got the name of Neville. And this is the one that I knit on flexi flips, which are kind of sort of DPN with a flexible, approximately 3 centimeter long section in the center, and you use 3 of them. So it's half DPN, half magic loop in technique. And the reason I did that was number 1, to try it out. And number 2, because a lot of times when there are joins in the sections between that are in reverse stockinette, particularly with DPNs, you get a ladder in the purl stitches there that is really difficult to find ways to eliminate. And so people have been saying that going to either magic loop or the flexi flips was working for them. So I wanted to try it, and I'm really impressed. It worked really well.
That's great. And it's such a delicious red.
So this is Kobold, which is something that Madeline Tosh helped me pick out when I picked my 4 colors. I would not do the flexi flips with fingering weight, twisted stitch cabling without a needle again. If I was going to be doing it, I would get the Haya Flyers, I think it is. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. Can I mute myself in time?
Yeah, go for it. And I remember you saying that it's because the flexi flips, while they have 2 different ends, the one end is sharper than the other end. Neither of them is really sharp enough for you to do that detailed twisted stitch work.
Yeah, it wasn't as, I like them sharp and pointy.
I know. That's one of my problems with, I know we're supposed to be talking about FOs, but where did it go? I moved everything around because the cat was wandering around the desk before. I don't have sharp needles for the sweater I'm currently knitting.
Mm.
And it's irksome. I can talk about that later though, if you want to talk about your other FO.
Yes. So the other FO is another gnome.
Yay!
One of the things I did this month was I shot videos to release a massive series of gnome basics tutorials that I called gnomeschooling. And this is the sample.
Did you say gnomeschooling?
Yeah, that's what I called the playlist.
I love that so much. And for folks who are new here, Sarah homeschooled both of her kids all the way through elementary and high school. So that play on homeschooling, gnomeschooling is delicious.
Yeah. So it's technically the Natasha from No Fun Like Gnome. No, this is Natasha from Never Not Gnoming, but slightly fudged because I was trying to teach a bunch of things. So for instance, I needed to show 2-color I-cord. So I did the I-cord up here and then just transitioned into the hat. And I basically tied it down in a loop.
Oh yeah, so, this little bobble.
Yeah, it's like a bobble. And then I think maybe on this side you can see, oh, it's really blowing out. Anyways, right here, I just wrapped the yarn around it a bunch.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe like that.
Yep.
And yeah, so it's like maybe 8 rows of I-cord. I put it back down and then I just, and then, tied it off and stuck the end down inside. So, yeah. And then the other thing I did is I put a cardboard piece at the bottom. I was showing a bunch of stuff. I was showing bunch of stuff for options for stuffing and for making them flat and cutting out cardboard, or some people use giant washers and things like that. Those were all options. So yeah, I did this as part of a whole series of tutorials. It took me forever to finish him because he was, like I could knit this and then I could do this and then I go edit some stuff and make sure it shot okay. And then I go back and I do the next step and whatever. But world famous star of the gnomeschooling video series. Soon to be.
I was gonna say soon to be. Yeah.
So hey, did you know that you didn't know today's the International Day of Gnomes because we declared it that in the Ravelry group. Okay. There is technically an International Day of Gnomes, but they mean Wikipedia. The people that work for Wikipedia are apparently called gnomes. And we wanted a day that was in February, March when we all need an extra holiday. And we picked March 5th. So congratulations, everyone.
That's hilarious. And that's so funny. I had no idea that people who work for Wikipedia are called gnomes.
Or like the volunteers or something. Apparently they like nicknamed them gnomes. Why? Which makes sense to me. I mean, what do I call my kids? They're not kids anymore. Plus Alex lives with us, who's not my child at all. So I have like this quasi-parental, quasi-roommate relationship with people not my age in my house. So I'm calling them squidlings.
Yeah.
I just needed to make up a word. So calling a bunch of people gnomes also makes sense. That is hysterically Papa Franco. I have vivid, lucid dreams that gnomes abduct me and force me to open all of their pickle jars as their hands are too small and insignificant.
I'm glad that you enjoy those dreams. That's hilarious.
That is amazing. Oh, and what's interesting is Natasha's bio, so the gnome that this is based off of, says that Natasha's from New Zealand and likes artisanal pickles. So Natasha will always be there for you with a jar of pickles to open because that's.
Oh my gosh. Happy International Gnome Day indeed.
So those are my two FOs. Tiny, tiny, tiny. I've got some big works in progress though, as do you.
I do. I mean, I've already shared a sock. I'm going to share a project bag before I get into this. And I think I maybe got this bag before you started knitting gnomes. Definitely before you started selling gnome patterns.
Yes.
This is one of my earliest project bags. A bunch of gnomes throwing a garden party.
Etsy purchase, if I remember
correctly.
correctly. Was it your first Etsy purchase? I remember this is like
I don't know if it was my first Etsy purchase, but like, yeah, this is harkening back. And my project in it, as you can tell by how stuffed it is growing out of it. So I'm going to be taking it out of this. And this person, I don't even know if they're still making stuff anymore, but they for sure ran out of their gnome fabric, because I also bought from them my Swift holder, which has gnomes and little not camper vans, but those things that are campers that you attach to the back of your truck or your car, and like all the vintage kind of the droplet shape.
Fifth wheel?
Maybe. Anyway, I bought this stuff. Anyway, so this I'm going to be taking this project out and putting it into my unicorn doctor bag, which is what I call this one, because it's shaped kind of like an old school doctor bag.
Yeah, that's what they're often called, that style.
Okay. Yep. And this one is from a local person from me. Dragon fiber bags. Really great attention to detail.
Dragon fiber bags. Sorry, I was talking over you there. I wanted to make a request that you stop calling it your unicorn doctor bag and you start calling it your doctor unicorn bag.
Maybe, yeah.
Because that unicorn has a PhD in awesome.
It really does. And so does, I'm pretty sure the person's name is Rebecca. Like, look at this attention to detail. Like, cut out that swirl and make sure that it's on the end of the zipper pull on both sides. And there is a unicorn. Can I get you to see this? Perfectly on one of the interior pockets, and just really well done wire to hold it open. But the project,
yes,
is this. So let's put that other project bag aside. This is the shortest day shawl. I don't remember the name of the designer, but it's from Knitty. I'm going to orient this properly. So I've been working on this since the beginning of the month. I cast this on for my birthday, which I took off. I can't see myself. I can't see what I'm sharing, but it's clearly needs blocking. But what I love about it is that chevron there that you can kind of see in pearl is a repeated pattern throughout the edges of it. And then it's like each chevron piece is kind of broken in half. And then you get one half of the stripe kind of going out the rest of the way. And that repeats on both sides of the triangle. So it's going to be a big triangular shawl. It's so hard to show right now. But
that's much bigger than last time I saw it.
Yes. And it will be reversible because it's all done in its pearls. And then it calls for 3 ginormous, lovely tassels, one for each tip. So really enjoying working on this. It's worse.
How far do you think you are?
I need to repeat the main pattern. I can't remember how many times. I think I have 3 skeins, 3 balls left. That's blowing out. It's Barocco Ultra Wool. So I want to say I'm not quite halfway. I'm guessing here. But it's also, worsted weight, which is wonderful. So much of what both Sarah and I knit is fingering weight on tiny needles. And I am using US 7 or 4.5 millimeter needles. And speaking of sharp tips, I really love the stiletto tips of Signature Needle Arts. Love them muchly. So yeah, this is it. I've got a series of different stitch markers on it. Partly what I can fit, but I've got these 2 from Sugar Plum Circus. They're both sparkly, it's hard to show. And then because most of it is pretty much the same, just standard removable coilless stitch markers. Then I've got these big ones here that feel very different and are much different shape to trigger my brain to realize that I'm coming up onto the chevron section. So I've got that on both sides of it. So that's this one.
I am currently knitting a ball that the end, like it sometimes invites a companion along. It's a little tricky, but I am knitting the second Lollipop yarn. This is a Walk on the Wild Side, and it's just extraordinary how
I love it so much.
jewel toned this rainbow is. And then that gray, that nice gray between everything. This is one of those yarns that I kept picking up and saying it's too good to knit with. I'll put it back for like sometime when I truly deserve it. And eventually, it's taken me 2 years. Yeah, 2 years, almost to the day. This is the weekend of Stitches West, and my friend Lisa, I gave her the task of buying me a bunch of awesome yarn and bringing it to me at Stitches West, and this is when I got that from her. So yeah, 2 years it took me to justify. No,
so
get
beautiful.
over myself, and it's awesome. So I'm on the second one. I am a couple rounds away from starting the heel.
I love that yarn so much.
Yeah, and I knit my socks almost entirely on 9-inch circs, but I do use 2 DPNs for the heel and then 4 for the toe. I know that you can do the heel on the circs. I sort of tried once, might have been using the wrong technique, but I don't hate DPNs, so I just went back to what worked and was easy.
The first heel that I did on the 9-inch circs, I didn't have DPNs with me, and I was over at my girlfriend's place, and so I had to do the heel with this, and I don't particularly like it. I much prefer to do DPNs, and sometimes I'll actually do DPNs for the gusset as well with all of the decreases. Just sometimes it gets a little too. Sorry?
The first 4 rounds in particular, I really like to do on DPNs. I think it's something about the sheer number of stitches and the angle of the decrease. Just when you take the first like 8 stitches out or whatever, all of a sudden it's like, oh no, we got this, we're good. So yeah, I do actually like to knit a bit.
And these are good tips, but they're not, I don't know that I would want them to be sharper, but I think for when you've got all of the heel gusset pickup stuff, it feels like I would like something a little bit sharper for that. So yeah.
I also enjoy having the DPN to like use the rest of my hand against as I'm picking up stitches, and like, whereas I often joke that when I'm knitting, I feel like I'm perched.
Yes, very much so.
Perch, perch, perch.
Yeah, it's I'm right next to a stitch marker, so it's a little complicated trying to hold it up and do it at the same time. But yep, definitely. The other thing that I'm working on right now, so I said I've got a sock that I left at work. It's the same, I think I went up 0.25 of a millimeter for my needles because it's what I could find, and I needed to cast on for self-knitting during a long Zoom meeting. But I am working on my Edgeways Not-So-Mysterious cardigan. The designer is Kim McBride Evans of Indigo Dragonfly. And it's not so mysterious because I know what the final project is going to look like, but she's still releasing sections of the pattern on a every other week basis. And it's been really quite enjoyable. I am definitely behind. I just haven't been knitting as much in the last 2 weeks. But here's the back. So what I like about it is, if you know Kim's designs, she loves asymmetry. So she'll either put asymmetry in the pattern itself or in the colors or whatever. And so this one, it's mostly in the colors. So it starts at the bottom with this lovely purple, and then right up between the shoulder blades, we switch it out, and the color that is normally between the main stripes becomes the main color.
It looks so good.
Yeah, I love it a lot. So this is the back, and then I have started one of the fronts. So it's an open front cardigan with a bunch of extra material in the front just to make it extra snuggly. And another way that she's doing asymmetry in this one is the right fronts, or the fronts colors start at different. So normally with this one at the back, I started with purple at the bottom. With this one, I'm starting with gray at the bottom. And then the other front will start with purple at the bottom. And then this one is going to have another, she calls that yellow on my back. I've got that one yellow. She calls that a rogue stripe. This one also has a rogue stripe, but the other front doesn't. So just a couple of differences in the sleeves. Also, the one sleeve has, will have a purple cuff and the other sleeve will have a gray cuff. But so I am at the point on this where I actually just had to rip back 9 rows because I was stealth knitting on this because I've done all of my decreases and increases for shaping. And I didn't pay attention to the fact that I needed to start my neck shaping before I started my armhole shaping. So I'm about to start the neckline shaping. And what I like about this is intended to just kind of be a really open, really free-flowing cardigan in the front. But there's just a little bit of ribbon here to stop it from curling. And then she's got us doing the neckline shaping a little bit in. So it'll kind of create a bit of it almost looks like when you're wearing a blazer and it's got that folded over section. So the shaping is going to happen towards my shoulder as opposed to right at the edge closest to my neck. So yeah,
that makes sense because she's basically like the front is designed, there is a whole panel that is not demarcated, but is serving as like the squishy collar, right? And so she's just got that. Yeah. She's just got that shaping on the inside of the band. It's just visually subtle.
Yeah. I don't even know what brand needles these are, but the tips aren't particularly sharp. And also, the one is a little bit curved. I don't know if it was like that when I started this sweater. I don't remember if that was like that, but I noticed it midway through the back. So this yarn is from Indigo Dragonfly as well, in Grouching Oscar, Hidden Snuffy, Patina Fey, and they dyed this one for me, and it's called Goldilocks on a Bagel.
It's showing up super orange on my screen.
Oh, no, it's very yellow, a bit of a dirtier yellow. So, yeah, it's DK, nope, Sport. And I am using, really hate trying to read gray writing on silver needles. 2.75 millimeter yarn, or needles.
And that is your project? Well, like your second hopeful project for the Imagine Knitting KAL, which I just want to take a moment to mention. We are running our KAL. It is wide open. It's not like it's too late to join. The end of March is the end of the knit along, and it basically says, take something that you've been hoping for, dreaming of, lusting over, whatever, and turn it into reality. So whether it's finally getting that designer or a technique or a yarn or a pattern or something, whatever you want, big or small, you only get one entry, but you can sort of, you can over knit along. You just only get the one entry. So Katie's already finished hers technically, although Katie doesn't get an entry at all because you did the double knitting.
Yeah. So I did a double knit coaster. And yeah, if I can get this one done by the end of March, that'd be wonderful. But I'm only on, like, I don't think it's going to happen. I know we're still pretty early in March, but I'm already behind, and there might be a couple of life things coming up that are just going to kind of mean my evening brain space might not be perfect for making sure that I'm aligning the shaping right for necklines and armholes and whatever all else. So yeah, if I can get it done as part of my Imagine Knitting KAL within the time frames, wonderful. If not, I've got my coaster, which really is currently helping keep my mug from sounding like, my mug sounds like this when I put it down, as opposed to like this. So big win.
I was going to talk about something, but I'm actually going to go to my second sort of Imagine Knitting KAL project. So the first one I did was to join the fluffy plus fingering held together trend, which I did because I found something I'm not allergic to with that fluffy cashmere yarn. That's done. But I also had another sweater. I don't think I'll get this done, although I might. It's the Alaska sweater. And it is by Camille, maybe something. I can't remember. There will be a link, but it is the Alaska sweater. So I'm using Craggy Tweed from Farmer's Daughter. And it's just plain. No, it's not. It's amazing.
Beautiful.
Hang on, let me get this so that we all can have a look here.
It looks so good.
I'm so happy. I didn't knit this for a while, partly because I was so intimidated by the length of the floats that would be back here. And because anytime I've trapped my floats the conventional way, which is just to kind of twist them behind the work, it's pushed the yarn forward because I like my color work quite high contrast. And because I can't use, like, most of the, say, fingering weight yarns that are designed for color work are the 2-plies that are a little, they're not worsted spun, they're woolen spun, and they're not superwash. And we both have fairly sensitive skin, and I can't really work with those. So what that means is I want high contrast. I'm usually using superwash, and it's just slick enough that that little trap is kind of coming through. But I was watching a show with Arrow Knits and Pearls, I think is the YouTube. And she was test knitting something, and she was talking about how the pattern taught her the ladder back jacquard technique, which I have been hearing about, but it's like one of those things that nobody directly really explains. I couldn't find a punchy, clearly shot video on YouTube, but it's really, really powerful, and it's easy, and it's glorious. And what it does is, it's really hard for me to show you, but you can, I think right here, you can kind of see a contrast against my finger. Okay. Oh, and here too. So what you do is you use a make one stitch with like a lifted increase. So I'm knitting along in my brown. I lift the leg of brown, but then I knit it with the blue. And so from a brown, I suddenly created a blue. And then the next time I come to that, I pull the brown to the front of my work, like between my needles, knit the blue, put the brown back between my needles. And so the running strand between the stitches is still brown, and that pushes the ladder to the back. So it's not like you're catching it and it's interacting with the brown at all. The brown, so this whole thing just kind of like lives parallel to the surface without ever interacting with it. Because you're always moving the yarn, the brown yarn, to the front so that you can do this. There's no catching the float. It's anchored down here where you made it, and up here where you take it away, you just do like a slip knit using the main color. And that one, I could see circumstances where that might show through, but like it works so well. I'm really excited because there are a bunch of color work things that I love the look of, where like it gets really thin down the yoke, and it's just like, it's this shape that just kind of tapers out, and I love it. And I've been like, I love it, we'll never knit it, but now I'm gonna knit it. So I actually need to bite it off now. So the body,
so excited about that.
And then the sleeves obviously need to be sleeved, and then there's a little bit of shorter tree here.
Somebody's put in the chat that there are a few folks with YouTube videos on this method. So I don't know if they're ones that you checked out. That might be worth checking out later. Thank you, Nancy.
Fruity Knitting has fantastic. I've seen like a little bit of their YouTube channel, but I've never seen the tutorials. So I will have a look at that. Andrea Fruity Knitting has a tutorial on jacquard method. Yeah, because like I said, I searched it and nothing crisp and good was coming up. And yeah, that's good to know.
Very cool.
Locked Floats, Kyle Kunicki has YouTube videos. Awesome. Hopefully you guys can see the chat if you're watching afterwards.
I'm pretty sure it's visible later.
So, yeah. Excellent. So do you have anything else to talk about?
Honestly, No, although if you do listen to our audio podcast, which you should, it comes out every other week. It is audio only, but we go into a little more detail about our projects, our patterns. We also talk about the sci-fi and fantasy things that we're enjoying. And fairly recently, second to last episode was called Stealth Knitting Drawer, in honor of the stealth knitting drawer that I have here at my home office. And normally I just leave it open. But with this foster kitty, she has started to climb into it. And so I'm starting to have to close it a little bit more, and I've had to tidy up some of the knitting that's just kind of lived around my home office desk. So we'll see. If you do listen to the podcast and you're wondering why I still have her, because I was only supposed to have her for a week. They want me to keep her for another 2 weeks so I can continue to treat. She had surgery. But the hope is when the 2 weeks is up that I will officially adopt her, because she's adorable. And so far, she's going after my furniture, but I don't have a scratching post for her. So that will be remedied. It's one of the errands I'm running when we're done today. And she so far hasn't been too interested in my knitting. So she feels like a pretty good cat to keep around.
I hope that she will pay attention to your scratching post. Our cats have chosen to steadfastly ignore ours.
I am also going to be buying a spray bottle so that I can squirt her when I know this spray bottle doesn't work with one of your cats.
Well, yeah, he just was like, what is that? What is going on? And then he'll try to fight the water. But yeah. I want to say the vet will have a special kind of thing that is like it's a scented thing that you can put on your scratch post. And it also has color, and you make it look like something scratched it. And apparently that increases the likelihood that they will go for it.
Okay.
Just so you know. All right, I've got one more thing to talk about.
I love that yarn so much.
I kind of want more because these socks are not for myself. These are the Hearth colorway from Dye For You, who is local in Winnipeg. And Hearth is an absolutely extraordinary set of funky, rusty, grimy colors all mixed together. And these are from Matthias. And he is a very lucky boy.
Yeah.
But he helped us do something, and as payment, he was allowed to go into my yarn selection and choose from what was there. I pulled out the ones that were like, no. And he picked this from the ones that was left. And then I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that, but it's good. It's good to be knitting it. And as we've spoken about before, there are a couple Canadian dyers who have plump bases, and this is one of those. And I just love, I don't know if the difference will show up, but
I can see even just when you picked it up, like let it drop. Yeah. Like it's just so much denser.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just, it's going to be a wonderful sock. And, but this is the first one. I haven't been knitting as much on this because I've been sweatering, and I am allowed to do that.
Yeah. Did you say that's Dye For You?
I think so.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah. Dye For You is local, very local for me and fairly local for you.
Local by prairie standards, baby.
By Canadian prairie standards too, where, yeah. I think I'm kind of out. I love that so much.
Does anyone have questions before we get going?
It's been great to see folks chatting, but we haven't had as many questions this time. If not, that's fine. I know that there's a little bit of a delay.
Like it takes a little while. So
I know there's a little bit of a delay, but if not, we can also carry on. I need to go buy a scratching post.
I do have a Reading Rainbow themed book bag. Book Nerd Nation, keep calm and read a book, and then it's like take a look. It's in a book, but you don't have to take my word for it.
LeVar Burton is just wonderful.
You know, a book lets you zoom through time and space. And this is from Slip Stitch Studios. I don't know how frequently this is updated, but just since we're just making sure that there were no questions that I didn't need to address, but it looks like mostly things are great. And we will, yeah, no questions, just yay. So thank you for joining us. We will do this again the first Saturday of April, which is a date I do not have in my head, but it's pretty easy to remember. And I hope that everybody has the tea and knitting that you need and deserve.
Yes. I don't have anything wonderful to add to that, but tea and knitting are both wonderful things. And hopefully also everybody is as safe as possible in a world that seems a little scary.
Yes. So
I missed the company and yarn color for the gray stripes. Your socks, the Lollipop, Sarah.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was your sweater. It's Lollipop yarns, and they do their yarn in very amazing, like gobstopper balls. So the stripes are like separated out. It's done around the outside of, like, it's a normal skein winder to begin with, and then they finish it. So I can't show you the big, lovely amazingness that it was, but Lollipop yarns, walk on the wild side. I think there will be links to our show notes. So there will be a list of things we talked about, and then there will be a link to our podcast show notes, because we are much more specific there on our podcast, and there are links to everything there. YouTube is very difficult to link to. It's ugly, it's messy, we can't just copy and paste already linked things, and it doesn't let us already link, so then it's just this big alphabet soup. So we'll have a list plus a link to our show notes, and from there you can click through to other links.
And Barb, I don't knit while I play Knittens. I just play Knittens and then knit. I can't figure out how to do the two at the same time.
And learn to use your toes.
Yeah, you need to make sure that you're swiping in the right way for your match 3. I can't see that amount of precision with toes.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next month. In the meantime, audio podcast.
Yep.